This story dates back to spring 2016. At the time, I was in my late 20s. I was young and fit with very long blonde hair. A total hippie chick that had quit her job to travel the US with my ex at the time, pre-pandemic before the van life tiny home movement really took off. We left our home in the Midwest of January that year after holiday celebrations, saying goodbye to friends and family. By sometime in April or early May, we made it to southern Texas and decided to check out Padre Island National Seashore. For those of you unfamiliar with Padre Island, it is a seashore that you can drive right onto with your vehicle. My now ex and I were in a 26-foot Class C 1976 Chevy motorhome. We drove it into the island at nighttime, and waking up the next morning was the most insane and phenomenal experience. The ocean was a mere 15 feet away. The visual was so breathtaking, I will never forget it. We arrived on Thursday or Friday, and the beach was beyond packed. Another thing for people unfamiliar with Padre, it is where many high schoolers and college kids mainly flock for their spring break. Spring break was just a week prior to when we got there, or maybe still going on. Either way, it was busy and we had an awesome weekend partying away. During this weekend, we noticed that workers for the park would often drive down the beach. They are very protective of the sea turtle population there and would slowly drive by in marked vehicles a few times a day. By Monday morning, we awoke to find the entire island emptied out. When I tell you we were literally the only ones both when you looked left or right. We were the only ones for what seemed like miles. It was a gorgeous morning, so I walked the dog quickly and then came inside to sit at our pop-up dining room table to do some journaling. My ex was asleep on the very back couch. We were backed in with the windshield facing the ocean, so of course I took a seat looking towards the beautiful view. Maybe 15 minutes after I sat down to journal, a gray beat-up pickup truck drove by kinda quickly heading towards the direction of the park entrance. That was the first activity I had seen on the island that morning and thought nothing of it. However, maybe 5 to 10 minutes later, the same truck came driving back past our RV, this time much slower. The man driving the pickup was going so slow in fact that we made eye contact for several seconds as he went back by. He also seemed to drive closer to our vehicle in order to better see inside. Alarm bells should have been ringing at this point, but I kinda just shrugged it off. I was very much in my free spirit phase and was not easily off-put. This is where it gets really creepy. So obviously, this guy needed to turn back around since he was driving away from the park entrance again. But I was honestly minding my own business. I kind of immediately put him out of my mind. But yes, several minutes later, another 10 minutes, the man came back. But this time, he pulled directly up to our RV with his truck, essentially nose to nose at a 45-degree angle, to appear as if we were giving a jump. Not far-fetched for a 70s vehicle on the beach blocking us in. It was at this point my heart dropped and I began to get scared. I screamed my ex's name immediately and up he jumped from the couch. I know he could hear the panic in my voice. I'll never forget how quickly he got up and how he had his arms spread across while he dug down to see through the windshield. He was 6'5", very bearded, and I'm 1000% sure the only reason that the man in the gray beat-up truck sped off like a bat out of hell. It took several minutes for my heart rate to return to normal. My ex and I just looked at each other. That was the most unusual encounter on our trip yet. Surprisingly, we stayed another week after that, in the same spot. The idea never entered my head that the man could bring reinforcement and come back for me, us. I was so very foolishly fearless and naive back then. Anyway, it wasn't until later that day that another fact dawned on me. When my ex and I had arrived over the weekend, we only pulled out one camping chair. That one camping chair was in plain sight next to our RV outside. Prior to the spot, we had never done that. We always got both chairs out. but we ended up using driftwood to sit on when we had our bonfires, and so that was a nail in the coffin for me. The scary man in the gray truck absolutely thought I was a young girl all alone, and I still wonder to this day, almost 10 years later, what all he had in mind for me that morning. A few weeks ago, I was driving in the middle of nowhere heading to one of my friends. My wife was sleeping next to me while my teenage daughters were watching a movie in the back. Next to them, my toddler was playing with his toys. It was around 1 a.m. and I was nervous as the drive there seemed to last forever. The dirt road with no lights gave me chills as all I could see were only fields. The road had many holes and I was trying to avoid them as much as I could. I was very focused on that when I saw in front of the car a luggage. It was in the middle of the road on my side. On the other side, a car was parked facing us. The car was completely in the dark, as there was no lights inside or outside of it. I did not want to drive over the luggage, so my first instinct was to go out and move it. I was lucky to have my wife with me. She grabbed my hand and indicated me something on the right. One person was in the field, looking sometimes at his phone, reason for which my wife saw him in the first place. I turned my car around and I was ready to leave this road, when two people jumped in front of us from the field. There was no space on the road, so I couldn't go without harming them. Two people were in front of my car. One luggage, a car, and the person checking their phone in the field were behind us. I did not know what to do, so I did the only thing that I thought of. I just turned around again, facing the luggage, and just drove over it. Fortunately, there was nothing inside it to damage my car, so we got out of this situation completely unharmed. We arrived at my friend's house and everything was perfect and we had a great time there. However, I still have chills when I am thinking about this incident. This took place a few years ago in France. We wanted to camp in Spain with my family during summer holidays and took our motorhome. There was my father, my mother, my little brother, who was 4 years old, and me, who was 10 years old. After traveling for a day, my father looked at the map to find a camping site. Unfortunately, it was full. It was already getting dark, so we decided to drive again for a bit and found a parking lot with a few motorhomes already here and some trucks. After getting installed and eating, we went to bed. For context, there was 2 beds in the RV, one in the back where my parents sleep, and one in the front called the overcab bed where I slept with my brother. At night, my father had the habit to pee outside. This is important for the story. So after we went to bed, we chatted a little bit and slept. In the middle of the night, I woke up by hearing some noises like rustling or someone searching for something, so I thought that it was my mother or father. After a few seconds, I decided to see, but it was dark, and all I could see is a black silhouette 2 meters in the living room that opened the door to go out. I immediately thought it was my father that wanted to pee and got out, so I went back to sleep. In the morning, we all woke up, and after eating breakfast, my mother could not find her handbag, in the bag where we had our camera and photo camera. That is the moment I realized that the silhouette I saw was not my father, but someone who robbed us last night. After explaining to my parents what I saw, we went to the police, and they told us that it was a common thing here. We never found who it was, neither the bags. I still have shivers when I think about it 20 years later. What if I had said something to the man? Would he have fled? Would he have attacked us? I think we were just lucky to be robbed.